Hi, I'm Lisa Brown, Director of the Washington State Department of Commerce. We support our state's Office of Homeless Youth and do housing programs and rental assistance as well. I think we all know that homelessness is a growing crisis in our state. Unfortunately, there are more than 20,000 youth experiencing homelessness or foster care today. We all need to work together to address it head on. That's local and state government, nonprofits, and business, if we expect real progress. We believe we should do that equitably. What does that mean? Recently, a number of young people who had once experienced homelessness themselves helped our Office of Homeless Youth evaluate grant applications for programs that will help young people just like them. Hearing directly from those with lived experience was invaluable in developing a course of action. We captured much of the process in the following video. I'm going to watch, I hope you do too. Let's work together to strengthen our communities here in Washington State.
There are organizations in the state who are applying for money, and so we're going through their applications and trying to decide whether they should get the money or not. I feel like if you're gonna be an organization that's gonna work with young adults, you have to listen to the young adults.
I would say that it's definitely not hard to be in two places at once, and I'll do everything in my power in order to be able to be here and do this kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, by the time all this is done, it's going to be up to her, you know? Like, it's going to be up to my daughter. Like, everything's going to be affecting her by the time we're older, and I want her to have a better shot than what we got.
I think part of what I saw happen was a desire for young people to connect with each other, and the way that they showed up as friends and wanting to support. I overheard a conversation between two young people who had never met before. One of them was brand new, had just first time ever doing anything like this, and this young person who's been around for a little bit just leaned over and introduced herself and said, "Are you here to make friends?" And the new girl just said yes. And then they just sat together and they exchanged numbers, and just an immediate like connection, which was so lovely. And I also saw people show up with their gifts, their art across the board. We have artists who are doing shows, and we have painting, and we have musicians, and just being able to see them all be their unique selves. They're just show up as like authentic humans with each other and with themselves, and the joy that happened, and the dance and the movement, but also this like studiousness, being able to see how important all of this was and the purpose behind it was really motivating to them. And it didn't feel like that we had to encourage them or bribe them, or like, it wasn't hard to get them to lean in as soon as they knew why they were doing it. And we just had to connect it, because this has been their experience. They know why, they've been living this. And so for them to be able to have the power, and I heard them use this word, is like they feel powerful in these positions, and that is not a feeling that they commonly have. And so just to use all of their experiences of life so far to contribute to not only their own future, but the future of other young people, are all of the things I saw.
A lot of, I feel like, I know these aren't the same questions as the ones I created yesterday.
We're going to make a physical bill, and
we're trying to pass it right now that we've done this, now that we've graded.
But I think there needs to be more housing available.
Like help sort of like feed your passion and your interest in this work.
Get a job, get some money, you ain't doing right.
Well, it's been a long, long journey, I think. When I was probably like a teenager, I ended up getting I was homeless and then entered foster care, which took me out of homelessness, and then I exited foster care and it brought me back into homelessness. But it's interesting because I wasn't served until folks knew that I was in foster care. The social workers and case managers were always just like, hey, I hear you, I can't do anything about it, but if you go to this focus group, right, your input might get to the person who can do something about it. And so just 7 years of doing that in different spaces has brought me here right now.
The idea of using radical imagination to reimagine the systems that we currently are. So many things are, when we think about institutions, right, we think of these pale buildings and facades, but those institutions are made of people, right? And when you change the people, when you change the thought process, and you apply that radical reimagination to that, then you're able to change those institutions and through those institutions, the world.
You know, I was homeless actually in this area, and I was saying oh, instead of having to go revisit those bad memories here, I can revisit look, I went and did this here, this fun stuff, helping to give back my word on what happened to me and put my input on services that they need. And I like it. I just like it.
In order to know what youth need or want, you would want to ask people who've been through it, so that way you can figure out what is valuable and make sure you're doing and potentially the right thing. So I feel our voices are very important because, I don't want to get into politics.
Really easy to underestimate just how brilliant, intelligent, and thoughtful these young people are for the general public. We have some incredible minds here. I think with any group of young people that you put together, and I think it would be wrong to discount young people just because they've experienced housing instability. Just because they weren't handed some of the same opportunities and privileges as their peers doesn't mean they don't have absolutely every bit as much potential or more to make a huge impact.